Well, hey, good morning to you. Welcome back. We are going through the book of Revelation verse by verse, and we're trying to do it every morning. It's going to take a while, probably 300 days, but it's worth going through. We have actually gone through the book of Revelation verse by verse on this channel a few years ago, but it took years to get through. And this time, we're just gonna do it every day as best we can. And I believe we're in like episode 8 or 9. And what we saw in the very beginning is that this book was given from God to Jesus to give to his servants so we can know what's about to take place. And as we look at what's about to take place, it's incredibly important that you kind of picture yourself there, because it's important that we study Revelation not so we can know what's going to happen, but what it is we should be actually doing during this time of tribulation. So we're just going to pick it up where we left off. Revelation 1, starting in verse 4. John, the 7 churches which are in Asia, grace to you and peace from him who is, and who was, and who is to come, and from the 7 spirits who are before his throne. All right, we're going to pause there real quick, and we're going to kind of focus on these 7 spirits. This isn't the only time we're going to talk about them. It's definitely not the only time we're going to see them, but we're going to introduce them today as best we can. And there's still a lot of confusion that goes around these 7 spirits. But let's look at the description here we get from them. It says, from the 7 spirits who are before his throne. And that's the key, because a lot of times what people will say is they'll look at these are the 7 spirits of God. And they'll go to Isaiah, for example, and we'll just kind of see what they're getting at here. If we go to Isaiah 11, and we'll just read from 1. There shall come forth a rod from the stem of Jesse, and a branch shall grow out of his roots. The Spirit of the Lord shall rest upon him, the Spirit of wisdom and understanding, the Spirit of counsel and might, the Spirit of knowledge and the fear of the Lord. And they count these as 7 spirits of God. And what you got is you ultimately have, they call the Spirit of the Lord as 1, wisdom, understanding, counsel, might, knowledge, and the fear of the Lord being the 7th. However, I find this to be kind of a stretch on what these 7 spirits are, because it says that they're before his throne. So in Revelation, and I'm just going to share this, we're only going to use the Bible as a reference. The best reference to the Bible is the Bible. And I don't like to jump ahead, but for the sake of these 7 spirits, because it's grace to you and peace from him who is, and who was, and who is to come, and from the 7 spirits who are before his throne. So I'm going to let's take a look at the throne room. Again, all this stuff we're about to talk about, we're going to hit later when we get to that section, and we're going to hit it in incredible detail. And I don't like to jump ahead. I just want to kind of introduce these 7 spirits as best as we can. So if we go to the throne room, when John is taken up by a spirit and he's taken into the throne room, there's a few things there. There's God. There is 24 elders. And then there's this. We'll go to 4, 5. And from the throne proceeded lightnings, thunderings, and voices. And there were 7 lamps of fire burning before the throne, which are the 7 spirits of God. And lamps have a lot of things to talk about too. We'll talk about those again. I promise we'll hit all this in detail. But they are before the throne. And if you really look at everything in there, they're around God. This is the only thing before God. And then when you see the Lamb in 5, it says this about them. And I looked in 5, 6, and I looked, and behold, in the midst of the throne and of 4 living creatures, in the midst of the elders, stood a lamb as though it had been slain, having 7 horns and 7 eyes, which are the 7 spirits of God, sent out into all the earth. So here what we see is these 7 spirits of God. They're the 7 lamps, are the 7 spirits of God. And the 7 eyes of the Lamb are the 7 spirits of God. And if you look at what else is in the throne room, it's the 4 living creatures, and then a heavenly host of angels. But I think the best description of what these 7 spirits are before the throne, and keep in mind there's some key words there. These 7 spirits before the throne are kind of key. So if we go to Revelation 8:2, this is the moment in time where the seven trumpets are about to be blasted, and it says this starting 1. When he opened the seventh seal, there was silence in heaven for about a half an hour. And I saw the seven angels who stand before God, and to them were given seven trumpets. And I believe that's probably the best description of what these seven spirits in this introduction are referring to, is these seven angels. They're spirits standing before God. So really what we have as a description of these seven spirits is they're these seven spirits who are before the throne. And that's kind of the key, is that they're whos. They are beings. These are spiritual beings who are before his throne. And that's why I believe, when a lot of people say, oh, the seven spirits are these different things in Isaiah, or they're the lampstands, or I believe it's probably a little bit both, because these seven angels are obviously having authority over the earth and the realm of mankind. And they clearly have some sort of stance in the throne room of God. Because again, in the throne room of God, you ultimately have God, you have 24 elders, you have 4 living creatures, you have the Lamb, and then you have 7 spirits before the throne. And then when you get to 8, these 7 spirits are about to blast the trumpets. Now, the one that kind of, I think, gets really people struggling on connecting the angels to the spirit, or to as being these 7 spirits, is what takes place in 5 when they see the Lamb having 7 eyes, which are the 7 spirits of God sent out into all the earth. Well, keep in mind, what's about to happen in this moment is the Lamb represents the slain Jesus Christ. And as he opens that scroll, as he breaks each seal of that scroll, once it's open, well, what happens? These 7 angels then have influence and are sent out into all the earth. The wrath that rains down, the judgment that rains down on the earth is appropriate. It's justice. It is justice, and it is Jesus who has the authority over this. It is Jesus who is the only one who can break the seals of the scroll. And it is Jesus who is also standing before the throne, where the elders are around it. Everybody else is around it. But the 7 spirits are before the throne. They are who are before the throne. So we kind of have to recognize it as a who and not a what, if that makes sense. Because it clearly says, grace to you and peace from him who is and who was and who is to come. And that's Jesus. And from the 7 spirits who are before his throne, which I believe are those 7 angels who are given the 7 trumpets to bring about the literal coming of the kingdom of heaven on earth as it is in heaven, with Jesus Christ as the king over that kingdom of this world. So there you go. And again, I hate to kind of make it so, I guess it really wasn't all that simple, but I don't mean to simplify it. But as we get to those sections, we're going to hit it harder and harder. But just from right now, what you need to know is there's 7 spirits who are before the throne of God. They represent the justice that only Jesus Christ can bring. They represent the lampstands before God. And they're given authority through those trumpets to bring about the coming of the kingdom of heaven on earth as it is in heaven. So there you go. We'll kind of keep digging into that as we hit those sections. But this letter is to John, to the 7 churches which are in Asia. Grace to you and peace from him who is and who was and who is to come, and from the 7 spirits who are before his throne, and from Jesus Christ, the faithful witness, the firstborn from the dead, and the ruler over the kings of the earth, to him who loved us and washed us from our sins in his own blood. And we'll talk about that next time. So again, thanks for joining us. Again, I think it's incredibly important to wake up to Revelation, because prophecy encourages you and empowers you. And what a great thing to know is what, to really soak in the things that are about to take place. So there you go. Any thoughts or insight on any of this, definitely put it below.